stop studying right now. I mean it. Because if you're studying the way most people do, you are literally pouring water into a bucket full of holes, and you don't even know it. Here's a number that should genuinely scare you. Researchers found that within 1 hour of learning something new, you forget 50% of it. Within a week, you've lost nearly 90%. That means all those hours you spent cramming last night, almost completely gone. And the worst part? You had no idea it was happening. You walked into that exam feeling confident, thinking you were ready, and your brain had already thrown most of that information in the trash. But what if I told you the problem isn't your brain? What if I told you the problem is how you've been told to study your entire life? Because the truth is, the way schools teach you to learn is fundamentally broken. And by the time most people figure that out, it's too late. They've already failed the test, lost the scholarship, or tanked their GPA. But not you. Not today. Because right now, I'm going to show you the exact science-backed methods that top students use to study less and remember more. And once you learn this, you will never look at studying the same way again. Let's start with the ugly truth. The 3 biggest mistakes you're probably making right now. Mistake number 1, highlighting and rereading. I know. You've been doing this since middle school. You crack open your textbook, grab that yellow highlighter, and go to town on every sentence that looks important. Then, the night before the exam, you reread all your notes. Feels productive, right? Here's the problem. Studies show that rereading has a retention rate of only about 10%. That means if you reread a chapter today, by next week, you'll have forgotten 90% of it. And here's why that's so dangerous. When you reread something, your brain recognizes the words. It goes, oh yeah, I've seen this before. But recognition is not the same as understanding. It's not the same as memorization. Think of it this way, Afrain Dasim. If you watch the same movie 20 times, does that make you a filmmaker? Obviously not. You're just getting familiar with the story. And that's exactly what passive rereading does. It tricks you into thinking you know the material when you really don't. You feel prepared, but you're not. And you won't realize it until you're staring at that exam question with a completely blank mind. Mistake number 2, cramming the night before. Let's be honest, we've all done it. It's 2 in the morning, you're on your 4th cup of coffee, and you're stuffing information into your brain like you're packing a suitcase by sitting on it. And sure, you might remember some of it for the test tomorrow morning. But here's what the science says. Within a few days, almost all of that information is gone. Why? Because your brain treats crammed information like junk mail. It doesn't see a reason to keep it. You forced it in without giving your brain any signal that this stuff actually matters. And here's the hard truth. In 1961, the average college student spent 24 hours a week studying. Today, that number has dropped to around 14 hours per week. Students are studying less and cramming more, and their retention is paying the price. And for those of you thinking, well, I only need to remember it for the test. Let me tell you something. The students who actually master the material will always outperform you in class, in college admissions, in job interviews, in their careers. Every single time, knowledge compounds. What you learn and truly retain today becomes the foundation for everything you build tomorrow. Mistake number 3, passive studying. This is the silent killer. You sit down, open your notes, maybe watch a lecture video, and just absorb. You read, you listen, you watch, but you don't actually do anything with the information. Let me put it this way. If you wanted to learn how to swim, would you read a book about swimming and then jump in the deep end expecting to be fine? You'd drown. Yet that's exactly what most students do with their studying. They read the textbook, watch the lecture, and assume they've learned the material. But unless you engage with the information, test yourself, teach it to someone else, or practice it. It simply won't stick. Period. Now here's where everything changes. The learning pyramid. And why it matters. Researchers at the National Training Laboratories developed something called the learning pyramid. And this one concept can completely transform the way you study. Here's how it breaks down. At the very bottom, we have reading, with a retention rate of only about 10%. Then lectures, where you sit and listen to someone talk, about 5 to 20% retention. Watching demonstrations gets you to roughly 30%. But here's where it gets powerful. When you practice a concept by doing it yourself, retention jumps to 75%. And when you teach that concept to someone else, 90% retention. Read that again. Going from reading to teaching takes your retention from 10% to 90%. That's not a small improvement. That's a complete transformation of how your brain stores information. And this is exactly why the smartest students don't just study harder. They study differently. The core principle has been validated by modern learning science. Active engagement with content always beats passive consumption. Now, but how do you actually do this? How do you go from being a passive learner to someone who retains almost everything? Let me give you the exact playbook. Step 1. Active recall. If you want to remember more in half the time, you need to understand one thing. Your brain doesn't learn by absorbing information. It learns by retrieving it. This is called active recall, and it's one of the most well-researched study techniques in all of cognitive science. The idea is simple. Instead of passively reading your notes over and over, you close the book and try to pull the information from memory. That struggle, that effort of trying to remember something, that's what makes it stick. Think of your brain like a muscle. Active recall forces it to lift the weight. And just like at the gym, the harder the lift, the stronger you get. And the research backs this up overwhelmingly. Students who tested themselves on material retained significantly more information a week later than those who simply reread their notes. One study even found that students who quizzed themselves scored 50% higher on exams than students who used traditional study methods. 50%. That's the difference between a C and an A. So how do you use active recall? 2 powerful strategies. Strategy 1. The Feynman technique. Named after the legendary physicist Richard Feynman, this method is brutally simple. Pick a concept you're studying. Now try to explain it as if you were teaching it to a 5-year-old. No jargon, no complicated words. Just plain simple language. If you get stuck or can't explain a part clearly, that's your signal. That's the gap in your knowledge. Go back, relearn that specific part, and try again. Keep refining until your explanation is crystal clear. Research has shown that students using the Feynman technique saw their test scores improve by an average of 17%. Why does it work so well? Because teaching forces your brain to organize information into a coherent structure. It exposes the gaps you didn't know existed, and it moves you from the bottom of that learning pyramid straight to the top, where retention hits 90%. Strategy 2. Self-quizzing and past papers. Here's a fact that might surprise you. The top students at any school aren't necessarily the ones who study the most hours. They're the ones who test themselves the most. Instead of rereading notes for the 5th time, they grab flashcards, pull up past exam papers, or create their own quizzes. Every time they force their brain to retrieve an answer, they're strengthening that neural pathway. It's like going to the gym for your brain. The more reps you do, the stronger the connection becomes. If you have access to past exam papers for your class, use them. If you don't, make your own questions after each study session. Write down a question on one side of a flashcard, the answer on the other, and quiz yourself the next day. It's simple, it's free, and it works better than almost anything else out there. Step 2. Spaced repetition and the forgetting curve. Now here's something that will blow your mind. Back in the 1880s, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus conducted one of the most famous experiments in the history of psychology. He discovered what's now called the forgetting curve. And here's what it showed. Humans forget roughly 50% of new information within the first hour. After 24 hours, you've lost about 70%. And within a month, without any reinforcement, you can lose up to 90% of what you learned. That sounds terrifying. But here's the good news. Ebbinghaus also discovered the antidote: spaced repetition. See, every time you review information at strategic intervals, you reset the forgetting curve. The memory gets stronger, the decline gets slower, and eventually that information moves from short-term memory into long-term storage, where it stays. Here's the simple 3-step system. Day 1. Learn the material. Day 3, do a quick 10-minute review. Day 7. Test yourself without looking at your notes. That's it. This simple spacing schedule can dramatically increase how much you retain. And the beautiful part is, each review session gets shorter because your brain holds onto the information longer each time. Tools like Anki, which is a completely free flashcard app, actually have spaced repetition algorithms built right in. The app automatically shows you cards right before you're about to forget them. It's like having a personal study coach that knows exactly when your brain needs a refresher. Medical students across the country swear by it. There's a reason it's become one of the most popular study tools in the entire world. Step 3. Make studying a daily habit, not a panic session. Now here's the real talk. You can know every study technique in the world, but if you don't use them consistently, they're completely worthless. The number one reason students fail isn't because they're not smart enough. It's because they don't study consistently. They wait until the last minute, panic, cram, and pray. So let's fix that with 3 habit hacks that actually work. Hack number 1, the 2-minute rule. This comes from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, which has sold over 15 million copies worldwide for a very good reason. The idea is dead simple. Whatever study habit you're trying to build, scale it down to something that takes 2 minutes or less. Instead of telling yourself, I need to study for 3 hours, say, I'll just read 1 page, or I'll do 1 flashcard. That's it. Why does this work? Because the hardest part of studying isn't the studying itself. It's starting. Once you begin, your brain shifts into might as well keep going mode. A guy James Clear wrote about wanted to lose weight but couldn't commit to long workouts, so he just drove to the gym and exercised for 2 minutes. That's it. He literally worked out for 2 minutes and left, but he kept showing up. And eventually, he lost over 100 pounds. The same principle applies to studying. Show up for 2 minutes. The rest takes care of itself. Hack number 2, habit stacking. This is one of the most powerful behavior change strategies in psychology. The concept is simple. Attach your new study habit to something you already do every single day. After brushing your teeth in the morning, review 1 flashcard. After eating breakfast, do a 5-minute quiz. After dinner, summarize 1 concept in your own words. Research shows that up to 45% of our daily actions are habitual. By linking studying to an existing habit, you're piggybacking on neural pathways your brain has already built. It becomes automatic, just like brushing your teeth. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. Hack number 3, the Pomodoro technique. If studying feels like running a marathon, your brain is going to resist hard. That's just how we're wired. Instead, break it into sprints. Set a timer for 25 minutes of pure, focused studying. No phone, no social media, no distractions. Then take a 5-minute break. After 4 rounds, take a longer break of 15 to 20 minutes. Studies have found that working in short, focused bursts can increase productivity by up to 25%. And structured Pomodoro sessions led to about 20% lower fatigue and measurably higher motivation compared to studying without structured breaks. Your brain can only focus intensely for about 25 to 30 minutes before attention starts to fade. The Pomodoro technique works with your biology, not against it. Now, the hard truth nobody wants to hear? Even the best study techniques in the world won't save you if you ignore one critical factor: sleep. Only 11% of American college students report sleeping well. 40% say they feel well rested only 2 days per week. And research from the National Library of Medicine shows that 70% of college students get insufficient sleep. Here's what happens when you don't sleep enough. Your hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for forming new memories, essentially shuts down. Sleep deprivation before learning slashes your brain's ability to encode new information. And sleep deprivation after learning prevents your brain from consolidating what you studied into long-term memory. Studies spanning 5 decades of research have confirmed that even one single night of total sleep deprivation has a measurable, detrimental impact on memory. So that all-nighter you're planning? It's not just unhelpful, it's actively destroying your ability to remember what you studied. You'd literally be better off sleeping for 8 hours and studying for 1 hour than staying up all night studying for 8 hours. That's how powerful sleep is for your memory. Let's put this all together. Here's your new study system in a nutshell. Stop rereading and highlighting. It doesn't work. Use active recall. Close the book and test yourself. Apply the Feynman technique. Teach it like you're explaining it to a child. Space out your reviews using the forgetting curve. Day 1, Day 3, Day 7. Build your study habit with the 2-minute rule, habit stacking, and the Pomodoro technique. And for the love of your GPA, get some sleep. The students who figure this out early don't just get better grades, they learn faster, retain more, and spend far less total time studying than everyone around them. They're not smarter. They just know how to use their brains the right way. Now here's what I want you to do. Right now in the comments, tell me, what's the one study mistake you've been making that you're going to stop today? I want to hear it. Drop it below. And if this video opened your eyes to a better way of studying, smash that like button so more people can see this. Share it with a friend who's still cramming at 2 in the morning. You might just save their entire semester. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video that could change the way you learn forever. Your future self will thank you for clicking that button today. Now go out there and study smarter. You've got this.